So I asked on live yesterday, what are some things that I believe that might be considered a hot take? And I had a lot to say, so buckle up. America makes more than enough money for higher education and healthcare to be basically free. There are two main reasons why we don't. Smart and healthy people are bad for capitalism. If education and healthcare were free, we'd lose the majority of our incentive for people to join our military. We dangle free education, healthcare, housing, food like a carrot that you can only reach if you join the military. Police should be required to do at least 1 year of law school before they're allowed to go out to the streets. There are way too many people policing the law that do not know the law. The reason why people say ACAB isn't because of a few bad apples in the bunch. When police were originally created, they were called the Slave Patrol. Their job was to squash slavery uprisings and return runaway slaves. The police have never been for all people. They have always over-policed and unfairly policed people of color. They've always harassed people who weren't doing anything wrong. It doesn't matter if there are good cops, if the job of being a cop makes them do shitty things. I also don't think cops should be the go-to for every situation. We send cops in for everything, whether they're the best people for that situation or not. Drugs, mental health, slight inconveniences, like everything. If we took from the police's massive budget and put into other groups who do specialize in these other things, it would result in fewer casualties and more people getting help. I think cops should stick to a very small group of things rather than doing everything, basically. Other countries have figured out how to own guns without shooting up the place. I think we should look at what other countries have done and see if we can learn from that. Success leaves clues. Other countries have people with mental health issues. They're not shooting up the place. Other people have criminals that own guns. They're also not shooting up the place. People who use masculinity and femininity as factors when dating are more miserable than people who don't. People who talk about needing to be in their feminine energy or needing somebody who's in their masculine energy or somebody who has too much of one or the other, all that stuff. Those people enjoy dating less than people who do not care about that shit. You're doing yourself a disservice by hard focusing these completely fabricated concepts. Sex work should be decriminalized. There are men who genuinely just want the transaction of sex. They think if they spend a bunch of money, that should be enough for a woman to sleep with them. However, because that kind of transaction is criminalized, they try to apply that dynamic to women who did not sign up for that dynamic in the form of dates. So if it were decriminalized and those guys could find women who that's what they do, right? And then they can, make their money and do everything legally. And then women who are not interested in that don't have to be harassed by that. Obviously, the counter argument I would hear from that is if guys could do that, then they just never would get married. Well, one, I don't think marriage is that important anyway. The institution is misogynist. But two, we decriminalize weed, a literal drug, and everyone didn't just become potheads. I think it'll be fine. For-profit prisons are bullshit. I don't think that should be a thing. I think if our prison system were actually focused on rehabilitation rather than punishment, we'd get less repeat offenders. I think if our society provided enough resources for people to survive, we'd have less criminals. I think drug addiction should be treated like a mental health issue rather than a moral failing. I think STI should be treated like any other medical condition rather than a moral failing. People lose their mind when you talk about herpes, but don't bat an eye when you talk about chickenpox, which is a form of herpes. I think billionaires shouldn't exist. Eat them. Except for Taylor Swift. I think she's okay. That's a clear joke. I think that once your income or assets value $1 billion or more, you should be taxed so egregiously that it becomes impossible to make a second $1 billion. I don't think your life can improve more from 1 billion to the next. So I think that the rest of that money should go to making the lives of everyone else better. Those are my hot takes. If you don't like them, I don't care. But thanks for watching. Bye.